Me, I think the biggest mistake, the number one mistake, was the timing, like the short notice. I'm gonna give my second one, but let me hear what Omosh has first before I give
think
my
to
second
add
one.
on to your timing one and the short notice, it was notice period.
There's so many people who did not register. Real quick, like before we go into the meat and bones of today's show, what are some reasons? Forget about the people who are living far. What are some reasons, like people who are just right next to the embassy, like 10 minutes to the embassy? Why did they not go to register to vote?
You want to start with me or with Omosh?
Let me start with Omosh.
Please, yeah. With our veteran.
Yeah, very funny. I actually think it's what I would say it's voter apathy. And when I say voter apathy, I mean folks thinking that their vote is not going to count, and so why should they go register to vote in the first place? So that would have been a reason. But I also think that if it was outside the voter apathy, it would have been documents, not having the requisite documents that were required. The number one being, or the only document at that point being the passport, and by that, a valid Kenyan passport, which...
By valid, please, can you redefine what valid means, por favor?
A valid Kenyan passport actually just means it's a Kenyan passport that has a valid date on it. It doesn't matter whether it's the old generation or the East African passport.
Meaning it has not expired.
Meaning it has not expired, or the stamp on it is still valid. At that point, you should be able to register, because the passports, the old passports, were extended until November of this year.
Yeah.
So those of you who are holding those old passports, you still have enough time to travel to Kenya 6 months before, or you could still renew it here at, I think, in New York, DC, I think LA?
No, I know. Yeah, I think LA you can also. I'm not 100%
I'm not
sure.
100% sure about
not,
LA. I know New York and DC you could do the passport.
Yeah.
But that's to answer your question, Uno. Valid passport basically means that it has a date that is not on the day that you're going in, and it's a Kenyan passport. That will suffice. So a lot of people apparently don't have passports that are valid. If you've been here for a while, either somebody is ataki kusumbuka na embassy, it's difficult to get to the embassy, you don't know what documents you need to get to renew your stuff, or there's something that's missing, or you left Kenya and you did not have an ID, and now an ID is required to basically renew your passport.
Okay. Now, before we dig deeper in tonight's conversation, I first want us to acknowledge, some heroes that we have in this process who rarely get attention they deserve. Now, in a ruling issued by the High Court earlier this week, IEBC was compelled with immediate effect to accept national IDs for the registration of diasporans in addition to passports. Now, the petition filed by activist Okiya Omtata was a relief to Kenyans in the diaspora who've not been able to get the new e-passports due to the current backlog. I want to take this opportunity to thank Okiya Omtata and his team for working on our behalf despite not being one of us. Which brings me back to the panel again in our conversation, and I want us to briefly maybe talk about maybe some of the, genuine inconveniences that may have resulted in a lot of diasporans choosing not to register. There was, of course, the firm requirement of a valid passport. That was prior to the court ruling. Of course, now people were allowed to come in with their IDs. But what are some other genuine inconveniences that may have resulted in the low turnout for registration? And here is where I also want to engage, our listeners who are tuned in, whatever reason you had, whether you were far, whether you had a document that wasn't valid, whatever reason, we have an open forum today. This is the morning after. And we are analyzing the process to see how it can be done the next time. So let me come to you, Uno, and maybe talk to us about some of the inconveniences that you think may have resulted in this low voter turnout?
I think one is distance. I mean, we can actually just say, the requirement of you needing to be on embassy soil or Kenyan soil.
Kenyan soil.
Kenyan soil. Thank you. Disadvantaged many, especially people who are not within the DMV area. So in Minnesota, Dallas, not New Jersey, Seattle. That is one. Two, some people's work requirements require them either to be on the road or on the shift, whatever it is. Some people, just the work itself, hawawezi toka, or they cannot disengage themselves depending on the type of job.
Okay.
So are you saying the hours 9 to 5 were not conducive?
No, they were not conducive for them. Hypothetically, let's look at some people even in the healthcare. I mean, you could have signed up for a shift that required you to be on for 2 weeks. And at that particular time, you needed to be, if you're available
yeah.
and you cannot. So that is another reason. I can't think of another one. I mean, there may be some other things, maybe COVID, if you had an illness and you have to be sequestered, you can't move, you can't travel. You can't move. You can't go anywhere because now you're in isolation. That is another. That might be another reason.
Okay.
That is what that comes to me so far, and especially for those people living out of state. As far as the DMV, now that could be up for debate.
Now, my thing, the distance. That's a very valid reason, but to me, that could have been mitigated by an advance notice. If this notice was given like 3, 4, 5 months in advance.
Agreed.
Let's just say 3 months in advance.
Agreed.
It would have given
November last year.
Yes, it would have given people the opportunity
to plan.
Yes. Even people who live far. I'm sure there are people who really wanted to register.
If guys are able to plan and register and do their thing for Vegas 7s or LA 7s, knowing that when the schedule comes out, given the same ample time or even half the time.
Yeah.
They can do that to come and register to vote.
Yes.
Carry on.
I'm sure, I'm sure that could have been done. So to me, I think IBC's fatal mistake. I call it fatal because they're also judged based on how many people they register.
Yes.
It's in their best interest to get as many people as possible registered. Now, they may have a reason why they had a late notice. And it may have a lot to do with budgets. Because, diaspora is one of those places, kama pesa itoshi, diaspora is one of those places where, we are going to go to fewer places. So I think, it may have had something to do with the budgets, but there was still no proper or adequate communication. If this came in advance, I strongly believe, there are so many people from other states who would have traveled to come and register. Now, for people who are local, even people who have double shifts, I don't think, okay, maybe I could be wrong on this, but this was open on weekends. And
at least for 2 weekends.
Yeah, at least for 2 weekends it was open, so to me, I personally think you could get, if you're local, by local, I mean like within 1 hour of the embassies, I think you could really get some time to come through. But to me, I think the biggest mistake, the number one mistake, was the timing, the short notice. I'm going to give my second one, but let me hear what Omosh has first.
I think to add on to your timing one and the short notice, it was notice period, meaning engagement with the community and letting them know that this thing is here now and these are the dates and who are you reaching out to, meaning the marketing, if that's what you want to call it, or PR or outreach, whatever you want to call it. Which groups were you going to let them know that there's an actual ongoing registration for diaspora? These are the dates, these are the places where this is going to occur. There's a lot of people who missed out, and after we had our special show, a week and a half ago, it seems like that may have opened some eyes for people, but a lot of the marketing has been done in Kenya. for diaspora, not in diaspora for diaspora, which doesn't really make sense unless you're assuming that we are sitting and we are hooked on YouTube, watching, Citizen or KTN or K24 or, any one of the other many plethoras of media outlets that they have, because there was a mass registration that was ongoing via IBC. So to me, that there is also disservice number two, but also works hand in hand with what you are saying in terms of giving notification, because once the dates were there, once it was there, then now you are here. Who are you reaching out to? Are you using the various methods that were there? I'm not sure if you received an email from the embassy. Did you receive an email?
I don't remember receiving one.
They are very good at sending us emails.
Yeah. I don't remember receiving one. And to me, the other thing that I think also, because I'm trying to analyze this from where people are and people's perspectives.
Correct.
The reason why I think to me this was a bit surprising, the numbers were much lower than I personally expected, is because I remember when the government had threatened people with forcing them to register for Huduma
numbers.
Yes.
A lot of people came. So many people traveled.
Yeah.
So,
they even had to change the rules of engagement and scheduling.
Yeah, so I was like, so my thinking was, if people, would react on an empty threat. On an empty threat. So my assumption was, I was a bit worried for the embassy that they may get overwhelmed, by people, coming in there, only to realize that there was no overwhelmment, if that's an
People
English word,
felt nothing.
that was going to happen. So to me, I think that was a bit of a shocker for me. So
Because the funny thing, you even remember, we had Jeff here on a visit. He comes into the studio, even told us that he even registered. And then we started analyzing okay, first, so you register, you get a number. There's no sticker. It's just a number that is written on something. So there's not even anything that can validate.
Yeah, that you registered.
That you registered. There's no valid tag number. Whatever it is.
There's no record.
There's no record.
For voter?
No, that was for
Huduma
Huduma.
number.
Oh,
Because you could actually...
it was a slip, I think.
It was
exactly,
a slip.
but the
It was
slip,
a paper.
it was a paper, but it was not
Yeah, it
even
was
numbered.
acknowledged.
Karatas.
Yeah, there
It was
none.
karatas.
No, yeah, it was
I don't think it was even laminated.
So maybe,
No.
hypothetically speaking, maybe if they whatever did a threat that, I don't know. I'm thinking.
Your M-Pesa services will not
M-Pesa,
be available
if you don't register to vote.
If you do not register to vote.
Because some of the things that are being said, and you see there are clips that are circulating. Like now, for example, I think in some parts in Western, Omoshe's backyard, that you're not gonna get services unless you're registered. You show
Actually,
a voter card or whatever.
They do not let you pass certain points. In fact,
If you're not registered.
right there on the road, they are checking. If you're not registered, don't have your ID, okay, pull over. There's the ID chap right there, and here's a chap for registration. And while you're there, get your COVID vaccination. Hake Mungu, they were doing three-piece.
Now,
Three-piece.
Son of a
yeah.
gun, guys, carry on.
Now, despite besides the short notice, I think also the narrow window also.
Oh, of course, the narrow
Yeah.
window was mother
Yes.
than you.
The narrow window was also not good,
15
especially
days.
coupled with the short notice. That's not good. But number two, beyond the short notice, was they just never contacted the diaspora.
They never engaged the diaspora.
They never had someone from the
At
diaspora
all.
in their team. This is where I think that commissioner who resigned, Rosalyn Akombe, who used to live in New Jersey, might have added value to the team, because the commissioners are the ones who are making decisions. So the team that came here from the IBC, very professional, very good people, but they just didn't know what they don't know.
They were dealing with local Kenyan things for diaspora, which
Yeah.
we are different.
Yeah,
we are different animals.
So, for example, New York was extended by 1 day. So people who are in New York right now, if you're in New York and the environs, you can go tomorrow.
Run tomorrow.
Yeah, to
Run
register.
tomorrow to the New York consulate.
But here's the thing. This information was going around WhatsApp groups. I had to go. I had to go check official, IBC handles. Nothing was said there. Then
Nothing on their Twitter.
Nothing on their Twitter. So I had to go, and contact some IBC officials I knew.
A chap you knew.
And they were like, yeah, this is valid. So I kind of asked, don't you guys think it's wise for you to put this on an official channel? Because with this WhatsApp streets and people don't believe the information.
WhatsApp news networks.
And the answer they gave me was that people in New York already know.
Yeah.